So Kevin Hart, one of the biggest celebrities around right now, has recently taken up rowing as a form of exercise. And rowing can be a fan-freaking-tastic form of exercise. That is if you row well with good rowing technique. Rowing is a very, very technical exercise, and Kevin here, well, he's got some things to work on. And so in this video, we're gonna be critiquing Kevin Hart's rowing form, and whether he sees this or not, hopefully there are some takeaways for you to take away from to help you with your rowing form. Now, right now, there's not a whole lot of video footage of Kevin rowing. We've got these still shots right here at some of the main components of the stroke, the catch at the front end, the drive, the finish position, and then a little bit of the recovery and the return. We are gonna be comparing his rowing form to an Austrian national team athlete, which Lucas here over on the RP3 rowing website with his form, to compare them side by side, so that way we can see sort of what to do right, what's not going so well for Kevin, and things to improve on. However, I was able to find a quick little video of Kevin rowing in real time to confirm that, yes, this is how he rows. Let's take a quick look at that. And so this was really just to confirm that those still shots are how Kevin rows, and we can see here in this top left corner, unless my head's in the way, that this is in fact how Kevin rows. So we've got some things to work on, Kev. Let's get into it. So I captured the stills from Kevin's rowing and also took some stills from Lucas's rowing, so that way we can analyze each portion of the rowing stroke. So let's start off here at the catch position, the front end position. First thing that I would recommend that Kevin do is lower his feet down. Take a look at the feet. And when we're rowing, we want to try to have our feet sitting as low as possible, with that strap essentially on the tallest part of your shoe. Usually about 2 to 3 inches of shoe showing is the ideal position. Now, why is that the case? Well, when your shoe strap, when the strap on the foot plate sits really towards the middle or the bottom end of your shoe, your knees get lifted up and in your face. And we can see right here, Kevin, I mean, he's not a tall guy at all. He's 5'4". With his not so long legs, his knees are still way up in front of his face, and that's because his feet are set so high. So if you are someone who sets their feet up really high or doesn't think about setting up their feet when they row, you want your feet to sit low. So try to drop the pairs of holes on top of the foot plates as low as you can for where it's still comfortable. We can see here that if we go over to Lucas, it's kind of hard to see, but if we look really closely at this not great still, he has his feet sitting a lot lower. And the lower you can sit those feet, the more it gets your knees out of your face. It allows you to get a nice forward body angle, which if we go back to Kevin here, we can see that he struggles to get the body angle forward that we want at the front end of the rowing stroke. We want to be leaning forward with our arms extended. We can see here that Kevin is sitting pretty straight up with arms out. If we go back to Lucas here at the front end, take a look at that body position. He's much more leaned forward with his torso. His chest is resting on his upper thighs, getting what we call the 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, depending on which way you're looking, 11 to 1 lean forward at the front end. And when you can't get that lean forward at the front end, you don't have the capability to hip swing through the finish position. If we take a look at Kevin's handle, and sorry that the text is in the way, can't move that. He's partnered with Hydro now, and this is where I got the still from. But if we look closely at Kevin's hands here, we can see that his hands are on the narrow inside of the handle. We always want to row with our hands on the farthest part of the handle, hands on the outside, and we can see Lucas right here with his hands the widest part of the handle. That's going to help us best activate our back muscles, reduce any sort of twinginess on the wrists, and it's going to help prevent any sort of shrugging or lifting of the shoulders and the traps. So Kev, you got to grip wide on that handle, you got to drop your feet lower, and you got to lean into that front end. So let's move on here to the drive portion, that portion of the stroke where you take that jump back. This is the still we've got. And Kevin, we've got 2 angles that we want to avoid here. We've got that knee bent angle with the body layback angle. When those 2 angles are parallel with each other, we're essentially opening up early. When we drive through the rowing stroke, we want to push our legs, swing back, and then pull. And we can see here with this still shot that Kevin is sort of pressing his legs, leaned back, and arms bent all at the same time, which is something we want to avoid. Now, if we look at Lucas here as he goes through his drive, This is just one still shot here. We can see that he's pushing his legs first. Arms are super straight out still, and his shoulders are still in front of his hips. That's because he's pushing his legs all the way down, then swinging back, and then pulling the arms. So that is absolutely crucial, that in order to get maximum power from the stroke, that we don't tense our arms and bend them early, that we work on getting the legs straight first, then swing, and then pull in the handle. We can see here too, this is a good glimpse of Kevin's thumbs on top of the handle. Rowing with our thumbs underneath the handle is going to be the safest way to keep control of the handle and help us again work on hanging from that handle with straight arms as you push your legs and as you lean back. So that's a big thing to look for here on the drive. Now, when we come into the finish position here, Kevin actually has a decent finish position. He's actually in the proper layback position that we would want to be in. He's leaned back into that 1 o'clock lean. If we go fast forward here to the front end, we can see he was vertical, not at 11 o'clock, but we go back to the back end here, and he is in the layback position. So whatever that layback angle is, it always wants to be complemented at the front end. So something to keep in mind. Handle position right below the chest, that's where it needs to be. Elbows out and back is gonna help keep your wrists nice and flat. If our elbows are pinched in, you get the T-Rex arms, that's no good. If you're pulling in too high, you got the shrugged shoulders, that's no good either. So right below the chest, elbows out. Kev, looking good, looking good. Now look at those feet though. Look at his feet. You see how his toes are pointing to the sky and his straps, or the foot straps, are stretched out, basically holding him in place? If his feet weren't strapped in, he would fly off the back end of the rower. And rowing with your feet unstrapped is actually a great way to see if you are rowing with proper form and proper control. And if we look at Lucas here, when he's rowing in his finish position, we can see that he has that same good layback that Kevin has. We can see that the nice flat wrist, the elbows out and back. But look at Lucas's feet here. Notice how his feet are still firmly planted into the foot plates. That's because as you come into that finish position, we want to be constantly pushing through the foot plates as you row into the finish. And when we hook our feet up like that, that's indicating that we're using our feet to pull ourselves back up, and we're kind of cutting short the true power and force that finalizes that finish position. So Kev, if you want to give this a try, you want to row with your feet unclipped, feet on top of the foot plates. And coming into the final still of the rowing stroke, the recovery portion, whenever we're on the recovery of the rowing stroke, we just want to do the opposite of how we got back into the end of the rowing stroke, the finish position. We want to come out arms first, body lean, and then bend the legs. And we see this still here from Kevin, sort of, I mean, I guess technically he came back the way he's coming back up the way he went back, but it's still with that sort of blended, mushed together form of the arms coming out, the legs bending, and while the body is still in that layback position. We can see Lucas do this very, very well here in his finish position, or on his recovery return. We can see here that as he's coming out, he pushes the handle down. His legs are still flat as that handle is coming out, because he's going to get those arms all the way out, then lean the body, and then bend the legs. It takes a ton of discipline, but once you learn how to do that, it makes your activation of your core and the total full body, activation of the rowing stroke really, really prominent when you let the sequence happen one at a time rather than blending it all together at once. And so to put this all together, we can see that Kevin has quite a bit of things to work on. And especially if you're not the tallest individual and height is not on your side, because height gives you a natural advantage on rowing machines, it's important that we keep these big fundamentals in mind, that we don't just row back and forth just how we might intuitively think to row, but we row with the proper form like we see Lucas here do. And just to reiterate those points, really focusing here at the front end of that rowing stroke, getting that body to lean, getting those arms to reach and lift, and with the feet strapped in nice and low as you drive, pushing the legs, then leaning, all with straight arms, and then pulling in the handle to that finish position at the very end, hanging from the handle on that drive. And as we come into that finish, keeping those feet pressed up against the foot plates. And as we come out, arms, core, then legs, arms, core, legs, just like that. So Kevin, those are the things that that's the pieces of advice that I have for you to work on. And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you could get something out of this. Do you fall into any of these little mistakes that tend to happen when most people try rowing for their first time without any real critique. If you do, let me know down in the comments below. If you want me to review your form personally for you, where I can talk over it and draw all over it, you can sign up for a form review over on my website. I've also got rowing training plans there as well, and my app, Just Row, where you can do follow along workouts with me that I coach you through that are progressive, that work in 4-week blocks. So I've got all that and more over on my website. Check it out if you're interested. And Kevin, if you want rowing form, I will do yours for free, man. Absolutely. Just hit me up. Let me know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.